What up, HyperChange? Welcome to another episode of Moonshot Monday. Today we're pitching a mega acquisition. We want to propose that Apple should buy Netflix. For a couple years, it's been clear that Apple wants to develop a digital content strategy. They not only want to own the screen you're watching, but also the content you're watching on that screen. The company's been in rumors for years trying to work with HBO, Starz, and Showtime to develop a skinny bundle of cable packages to sell you an over-the-air streaming service that would rival cable. And more recently, they've started to actually fund some of their own original content with a show called Planet of the Apps that's a Shark Tank knockoff that's received pretty mixed reviews, but is important because it signals that the company is willing to invest big budget in this original content strategy that they clearly think is a piece of their future. That's why we think acquiring Netflix makes a ton of sense because they get all the expertise on how to do this digital content, they get 100 million paying subscribers, and they take away their biggest competitor for developing this digital content strategy. Apple has 170 billion in net cash. Netflix is trading for about 85 billion today, even after making record highs after earnings. We think they could offer a 30% premium to this price and potentially buy out Netflix for 250 billion. This would have cost Apple approximately 112 billion in cash. That means it would leave them with about 60 billion in net cash. And remember, Apple's producing tens of billion of free cash flow per year, so this isn't stretching their balance sheet and it wouldn't drop a single line of dilution to current shareholders. So we think this is awesome. Additionally, Apple's been really focusing on growing its service revenue as a part of its business. Last quarter, its service revenue was only 13% of sales, but it's been growing as a percentage and was up 18% year over year. Acquiring Netflix would turbocharge the growth in this service business. Almost overnight, they would go from doing 7 billion in service revenue a quarter to 10 billion, about a 40% increase, and Netflix's core streaming business continues to grow well above 30% and would drive growth in Apple's service revenue for years to come. But let's take a step back. We think Apple as a whole really needs to go on the offensive. They have a ton of cash, they're producing a ton of cash, their earnings valuation is very cheap because the market's not expecting much growth, and they haven't figured out how to do this digital content strategy well, but they're clearly trying to push in that direction because they think that that's going to make purchasing their devices a lot stickier. So this is a way to almost cement successful execution in your services business and have the best by acquiring the world's leading premier digital content streaming business, Netflix. And if there's one thing Netflix has really figured out, it's how to spend wisely on original content. Their investments in series like House of Cards are things that you know way too well, have already gone on to win Emmys. They're proving that they can compete with Hollywood and produce similar quality content. Apple buying a business that can do that is going to be a huge advantage if they want to keep funding shows like Planet of the Apps and doing content on their own. Additionally, on Netflix's side, Netflix, although they're huge and generating about 11 to 12 billion in recurring revenue each year from their subscribers and growing quickly, are still losing billions of dollars per year because they're trying to invest in original content. In fact, this year Netflix has guided that they're going to lose between 2 and 2.5 billion in free cash flow. And included in that disclosure says we do not foresee being free cash flow positive for years to come. So the company is planning to continue to invest billions more than they're making in developing this original content because they think that'll lead to much more growth in the long term and justify all those expenses. But there's an issue with this. Amazon's spending is catching up to Netflix, and Netflix can't grow their spending fast enough because they simply don't have enough cash. Amazon does. And Amazon's AWS business, the retail business, are going to continue pumping out more and more profit and allow for the subsidization of massive content investments. If you check out this chart, you'll see that Amazon is coming in really, really fast, and they're on track to surpass Netflix's content budget by 2019 or 2020. By partnering with Apple, Netflix would no longer have this pressure to turn their free cash flow positive, could actually invest even more than they are right now in original content, and continue to stay a step or two ahead of Amazon. So we think it's really important that for Netflix's case to have access to Apple's cash flow. Additionally, we think that Amazon will continue trying to launch electronic devices, specifically a phone, and part of their content strategy is going to be really interesting to drive phone sales. So Apple, by having the integration of Netflix as well, will be able to rival Amazon and Amazon's Prime Video that would be on an Amazon device. To sum it up, we think this acquisition makes a ton of sense for both sides. Not only will Apple be able to turbocharge the growth of its service business and fully execute this content strategy it's been playing around with for years, but Netflix will finally be able to access Apple's war chest and have enough ammo to outspend Amazon for the long term. So we think this will turn Apple into an exciting growth story, perhaps increase the valuation multiple the market's giving the company, and reignite a run in shares, while Netflix gets a mini bailout and has a much better shot of competing with Jeff Bezos in the long term. The fact that none of this is dilutive a single drop to Apple shareholders because they have enough cash on the balance sheet makes this deal even sweeter. We'd love to see Apple get on the offense and buy Netflix. That's Moonshot Monday. We'll see you next time. Peace.